Welcome to the Content Supply Podcast. I'm Dallin Nead, and each episode we bring you an inspiring brand, creator, or message to help you discover how you can experience success in your business as we unpack stories and strategies about all things content and growing a successful brand. So this is just a whole discovery process for all of us. We feature a variety of different brands on the show, from entrepreneurs, entertainers, copywriters, marketers, coaches, athletes, to designers, filmmakers, photographers, and many more. All brand owners, all creators. So it's my belief, as with many others, that every company is a content company and has to be one to stay relevant and competitive. Because let's be honest, the internet is so full of brands that it can be very easy to get lost in the crowd. So quality and effective content really separates you. That's why Content Supply was created, to supply brands with ongoing custom content so they can engage with their customers by providing value, telling stories, and making more sales. And when we say content, I'm talking about video and audio and written or image, all and everything in between. All those. Content creation and building a business is really hard. You never finish the building and creating. Even after you experience some success, you have to keep going on the journey. Content Supply was created to be a resource, a community, and a solution to fill that large gap of content. So thanks for joining the show. Now let's get to the interview. So today we have on Topher Welsh. He is a Seattle-based content creator, motion designer, video producer. He's into VR, virtual reality. So he has a really interesting story, and we take this conversation, this podcast, in different avenues, different ways, because we talk about his stories, his experiences, his expertise, get a little techie, a little nerdy. And then we also talk about some stories from his life and career that are just very powerful. So I hope you enjoy. And without further ado, here is the interview with Topher. So to get right into it, tell me more about yourself.
Well, I am a motion designer in Seattle. Well, I live in Tacoma and I commute to Seattle, which is hellish to say the least. But I make really cool stuff. My mantra is kind of like, I make awesome shit. I like to make really cool stuff. Yeah. And so I do motion graphics. I dabble in virtual reality. I mainly work in After Effects with motion graphics. And I run the After Effects Seattle user group. And it's like I think it's one of the largest user groups in the country, which is pretty cool. And I've had that for like coming on 9 years, I think now. Okay. And we got I think 1,700 members on Facebook right now, 500, 600 on Meetup. And we consistently have 80 people at our meetups every single month. So wow. It's always fun.
That's crazy. So how do you host those events?
So we actually kind of have a partnership with Adobe. They supply us a room. I think they call it Adobe U still, but it's actually at the building where After Effects is actually created. The dev team is there. And so we actually have a lot of the dev guys come to the meetings, and we can actually pick their brain, which is always really cool. But we have we host it at Adobe, and I usually present. I go up and I'll introduce and I'll welcome everyone, and then we jump into a speaker or two. Like last month, we had Matthias from Maxon Cinema 40. He came out, showed all the new stuff in Maxon. We've had Parker Young. He did a huge expression series on YouTube that he released for free, but he gave kind of a primer to that at AE Seattle. We've had Casey Baker, we've had Jose Rodriguez, we've had, tons of plugin companies come out. It's great to have a place where all the motion people and pretty much any kind of graphic designer can come in and hang out with other like-minded people, because there's not very many motion groups. There's Photoshop groups and Illustrator groups and JavaScript groups, but there was no motion video groups. And so I found that little niche, and I captured it, and I made it 9 years ago, and it's kind of grown into a huge monster, and we have meetings every month. So
That's insane. So how did you start it? You identified that niche, that area you want to focus on. How did you start to find people with, I mean, Facebook or...
Facebook wasn't even around when I started it. I don't think we were, well, I think it was like college only when we started it. But I remember I was working at Fox Sports Media or something like that. I can't remember what it was called. It was basically MySpace Sports, and I was like their only video editor. And this is before like YouTube was a thing, so like you had to stream WMVs online, and it was just a mess. And so I was working there, and I was like, man, I was actually working right down the street, and I was like, man, I really wish I could like hang out with people that do what I do, because I just worked with all these like marketing people and web devs, and I didn't know what they did, and they didn't know what I did, and I was like, I really wish there was a thing. I had seen this thing called After Effects New York, and it was gigantic. I was like, why don't we have that here? Then I called Adobe. I was like, hey, is there any user groups going on? And they're like, no, but here's all these resources, you can set them up. So I set one up, and for about 4 years, we had about 10 people at the meetup every single time. And then we started, we got kind of a core group of people together, and we kind of just started pumping it more, and Facebook helped. We started putting on Eventbrite and Meetup, and put some money into the group, and it kind of just blossomed from there and became what it is now. So, but yeah, starting it was just, it was mainly like just kind of being like, oh, no one's doing this, I should do this.
And was it to meet like-minded people and build a community that you wanted, like the connection? Was it to like, I need more like income? Is there much money you make from it?
No, there's not much money from it at all. I mean, the connections were great that came with it, and that was kind of an afterthought, because when I started, I was just kind of a stupid kid, and and I just really wanted to like make more like motion friends, because like I'm actually self-taught in After Effects, and so I hung out in forums, and I did all, like every tutorial under the sun, and I eat, lived, and breathed After Effects, and I wanted to learn more, but like I didn't know anyone in town, and I lived in Tacoma. I was commuting, so I really didn't know anyone, because Tacoma's way smaller than Seattle. So it was, like, no one's doing it. Why isn't anyone doing it? I'm gonna do it, and so I just did it. And it was mainly just to meet people, and then it kind of turned, I realized that, oh wow, well this is kind of nice. People kind of know who I am after a little while. Oh, I can use this to my advantage. And then I started, kind of building the brand around that a little bit, using my name, and just, I don't know, kind of used it to my advantage, since I was the guy who founded it.
And so it sounds like that's produced a lot of work for you, like freelance work.
It's produced a ton of connections, and I mean a lot of freelance work, because I mean I've always had pretty steady work. I freelanced for a little while, like just freelance, but I've been doing like steady work for a while. But I mean, it's really nice because like now I get hit up about jobs like every day. But now I have this huge like network of people that I know, and I have known for almost 10 years now, of like, oh yeah, this guy's a killer at expressions. Oh, this guy is great at like, minimalist type animation, or if you need character work, go to this guy. And so it's really nice to have like that huge core group, and it's like even if I can't do something, I'm not gonna like bid on it. I can always find the right person for you. And I always tell people who always hit me up about that, like if I turn down work, I'm like, I'll find you the right person. Just hit me up. Just let me know. And it's been really cool that way, because I've been able to like establish myself as like a kind of a source for other people to try and get more work. And some people can like rely on me, like, hey, have you heard about any of this? And I'll be like, oh yeah, hit this person up, and I'll talk to recruiters and all these things. It's pretty cool.
That's great. Well, After Effects it's an interesting platform and product, because I mean, starting 9 years ago, I mean, was After Effects CS5 or
I think
earlier
we
CS2?
had our first like release party meeting. I think it was the CS6 launch.
Okay.
And I remember there was actually like a lot of people there. Actually, Maltanen was there, Remember Maltanen from Maltanen.com? He's a tutorial guy.
It sounds familiar.
He's like one of the OG After Effects.
Is he?
Like MotionWorks. Like there was like John Dickinson, Andrew Kramer, Maltanen, and Harry Frank.
Yes.
Those are the 4 guys that like taught me everything I knew.
Yeah.
And so I actually got to meet him. He's from Poland.
No way.
Yeah, and he, I had gone to NAB for the first time that year, and then we'd come back, and then the first little meeting thing was there, and then his name's Yurja. He had come back, and he's like, I'm speaking at some college in Shoreline. And he's like, can I come to the meeting? I was like, yes, please, I'll pick you up. This is amazing. You're a celebrity to me. And we hung out up at Gasworks for a little while and went to the meeting. It was just really cool. And it's just like, I wouldn't have been able to do something like that because I got it because of the group. It's
Totally.
really cool. So,
well, tons of opportunities. Well, for those who don't know, what is motion design and what is After Effects?
So motion design. So you can take graphic design. Graphic design is, still stuff. Motion design is essentially taking anything that you can create and making it beautifully move and look really cool and
Animation.
Creating animation on the screen, like, getting like basically digitally doing motion design. And that was a terrible definition of motion design.
To expound on that too, we see motion design in more ways than we realize. You think of like news stations, right? They've got kind of the metallic, the dramatic, they're really sports center type motion design on networks. And then on the flip side, there's the more like comic based, like more cartoon based style motion design where it's more colorful and more like solid colors.
It's kind of crazy because like motion design spans so many different things. Because I mean, motion design can essentially be like cartoons, but motion design is also UX design when you develop features for an iPad app, or if you are designing screens for a new product at Amazon, or
VR too. You mentioned you
VR.
mentioned your venture. I mean, you've been in VR for a while, so
yeah, I've been doing the VR thing for like a year now. I bought a Vive like a year ago, and it's just been awesome.
Virtual reality. I mean, and that's a whole nother game too, because I know in LA there's a handful of animators or artists who, a friend of mine who just recently left Disney Animation to work at a startup who's focusing in VR. So he's their character creator artist, and so he's creating these characters in this VR reality, this virtual reality space, and it's so fast. I mean, it's we're just on the cusp of VR, and that's a whole nother conversation beyond just. But that's another form of motion design.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of motion design, it's essentially anything. So you can have motion design, you can have 3D design. So like when you have like 3D character animator work, animated character work, that's more on like the 3D animation stuff. Like heavy 3D is like that, and then you can have like the motion design. So like when you have like the menus or like the UI layouts within VR, and they have to when you tap things, you have a down state and an up state and all that stuff, and make different things happen at different times. You can do all that within motion design. But it kind of just, it's this huge thing of like anything you can create basically can be motion design with, I have no idea where I'm going with that. I lost my train of thought.
But I mean, it's true though. Like to piggyback off that, like anything you can create digitally can be modified and animated. Yeah. I mean, and it's even real objects. You think of it. I mean, in a sense, it is a. Yeah, I mean, there's a motion design element to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially just if you feel like you can call it a motion design piece and you're proud of it, and you spend a lot of time on it, and you have made something really cool, and you've animated something. If you want to call it motion design, you can call it motion design. If you want to call it 3D, you want to call it 3D, or you want to call it traditional animation, you can call it traditional animation. But I mean, at the end, it's all art, and that's kind of the cool thing about like making really cool things is just it's art, and you can express yourself, and you can always put a little bit of yourself into your designs, and I don't know.
Starting the user group, how does one begin a community? How do you start finding people that share your beliefs, share your interests, and how do you gather them together?
Facebook. Facebook's a really good starter. Keep in mind, it's pretty slow to start. At least mine was. It's not an instant gratification thing if that's what you're looking for. But yeah, Facebook groups is awesome. That's been like our main platform for After Effects Seattle. We invested in Meetup early on, and that's slowly grown over the years. I think the key to just not only just starting the group, actually having like regular events, because I've seen tons of After Effects groups just die over the years because they're either like in the middle of the country where there's not a huge design scene, or they just don't, they have like kind of lax admins, and they just don't like really organize stuff too much, or it seemed like a good idea at the time and then it got to be too much work, because it's a bit of work. I mean, to schedule people, keep track of everyone, do all the prizes, all that stuff. Like it's a bit of work, and so I mean you have to know what you're signing up for. But I mean, starting a group is just a great step for, like, I gotta say it's one of the things that kind of helped me realize that I had a brand. I didn't really know when I started doing video and stuff. I didn't really realize that I was making myself into a brand as a motion artist, because I was just going out and like going to get a job, and like I wasn't like freelancing. I didn't really have like the Topher brand. So using the group really helped to boost that name recognition. So like whenever anyone thought of AE Seattle, they thought of me because I ran it, and a couple of the other guys that have also helped run it over the years. It's also been really helpful for them too, because they also get that name recognition with it as well. And so when you're starting it, it's just it's put in the effort, work really hard, give 110%, and just don't really give up. I mean, that's really, it sounds really rah, but I mean, it's really what you have to do.
Well, it's definitely easier said than done, for sure.
Well, I mean, 9 years.
9 years is a long. I mean, to what's the word? Nurture, I guess. Yeah. To nurture that group and starting from one, that idea, and growing it to 1,700. Especially with how specific of a group that is. I mean, After Effects being an Adobe program, let alone one that definitely separates the video edit. I mean, there's the video editors, the graphic designers. Motion designers is not, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's not as big of a group.
Well, it's getting to be way bigger lately. And that's like it's really interesting, because like when I got into video, I knew video was going to be huge in college, just because like films did so well. I was like, we have WMVs on MySpace. There's got to be an easier way for this. And if you can do these now, it's only going to get easier to put video online. And I was like, I need to be the person making those videos in Tacoma, because there was no one doing it at the time, really. And so like realizing where my niche was, I don't know where I was, I remember what I was going to say about this. So realizing where that I wanted to do that, I kind of called it right, because motion design has gotten so huge, because it's kind of gotten its claws in like every industry. So like back in the day, like UI design and UX design was all like hand drawn or done in Illustrator, and you deliver boards. Now, like, put together your stuff in Illustrator, you port it into After Effects, and you move everything around, and now you're not only just like saying, imagine this is what this would look like when it popped up, and then it's gonna move over here, but you could just like animate and show everyone. Yeah. It's so much easier. And so like in that industry, it's just gotten huge. UI design, like now everything has screens. Everything has screens. There's millions of apps. Like there's no shortage of like motion design jobs now, because like it's just the way the world's going. Like everything has to have good motion design, or else no one's gonna buy the freaking products.
To piggyback on top of that, you mentioned about brand building for yourself, your name, motion design. The opportunities are just expanding. the market's exploding. The same could be said of brands in general. I mean, not only has the internet opened up this, I guess, floodgate of opportunities for entrepreneurs online to make money and to find certain specific communities to build from square one, but you can get very, very specific by groups. You can focus on certain social media platforms. MySpace back in the day, some of these platforms die down or just completely disappear. Vine, to MySpace. Yeah. And it's amazing how the market explodes and expands. And that also means the competition expands, but the opportunities expand too. Yeah. It's regardless of more competition, that means more opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying with like brands, like there's just more opportunity to create brands now. I think like anyone can create a business now. Back like when I was like 12, I could create a lemonade stand, and that was about it. I couldn't go market myself. I couldn't create a page on Facebook. I could create a GeoCities website, but who's gonna go to it? I can go on, my kid can go online right now and make a Shopify like fidget spinner website and just sell fidget spinners to his friends. Like the entrepreneurial, like anyone can be an entrepreneur now. Anyone could then, it's just way easier now. Because now you just have so many more avenues to get yourself out there. But I mean, along with that, now everyone's getting themselves out there, so you have to stand out. And that's where like good design comes into play, where good marketing comes into play, good content comes into play, like all these different things. But I mean, there's no shortage of opportunity, which is nice. Which means there's no shortage of money for us.
There we go. Full intention of tapping into talent like yours to help support the content there. And it's, there's, like I said, there's all these brands, and they're, even without like a steady supply of content, apart from blog content, written content, man, they're striking gold. Yeah. And it will be interesting to see how the entrepreneur industry online maybe bubbles or expands, or how it evolves. But right now it's, there's plenty of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity, that's for damn sure.
There are projects that are pure art. There are projects that are a mix of art and business, or having to deal and, incorporate the corporate side or the analytical side of, you have to make decisions based on analytics and not just based on your personal preference or passion. Yeah. How do you kind of draw the line, or do you care that there is a difference between the passion and the business side, I guess you can say?
Well, I mean, at a day job, you kind of have to go with, looking at the analytics and stuff. I do that a lot with my current job. We, analyze what worked on ads and what didn't work on ads, and what to do more of, and why did this one succeed versus this one doing that. So like when it comes to a marketing aspect, you have to look at those things. But I mean, when it comes to like a passion project type thing, I've done a lot of projects where I've like lost money, or because I just want to do it, or like because or like it just takes way too much time, and I'm way too into it, but it's just so great. And then when you're done, you're just like, so good. Totally right. And so like there's like a balance when it comes to it. So, but the cool thing is like when you're also creating these passion pieces, you also keep it in mind that you want people to want to share it. You want people to like have an emotional response. So like you're still paying attention to those things of like, what have I seen, like what I'm creating right now? What have I seen that is similar to this, but it hit on these right points, and it hit those triggers in people that made them want to be like, this is a great message, let's put this out there. I want to hit share. And you have to consider those things too, like when you're creating things, because if you're the only one enjoying your stuff, I mean, I don't know, for me, the satisfaction I get from making a personal project is seeing other people be like, holy crap, that's awesome, share. And like not even knowing who I am and seeing it get out there. That's the really cool thing. And, you have to use the marketing aspect of that in the personal project to get it to that point.
Well, and you have to find too, as far as you and I being the, creators and artists versus say business owners exclusively, comparing it to kind of the Hollywood experience, in movies, you hear that there are directors, those artists who make the experience specifically for the audience in mind. They just want the audience to be strictly entertained. Or there's those diehard independent filmmakers who just couldn't, not give a care for what the audience thinks and just like, I made this for me.
Yeah.
Because there's a story I wanted to tell, and there's a very specific audience for that. But there's definitely and then obviously there's the side of you got the accountants making the decisions. For the show business side of things. And to me, it's very interesting to compare each of those worlds, because maybe it's a project to project basis that happens. But I would agree with you that I think the majority of artists seek after and they love the acclaim and the accolades, or just the affirmations that are received from the audience, and not in the sense of like, oh, look at me, like, look how good I am. But it's more of just it's that kind of full circle, like, artistic experience, I guess.
Yeah.
Where you develop something, you put your heart and soul into something, you create it, and if it doesn't, you want to be able to share it, and whether it's a story element or whether it's just really awesome.
Yeah.
Stuff that you created.
It's really nice. I think the biggest thing, like, when you're an artist that doesn't just do your art for yourself, like, there's people who like paint on the weekends and they hang their stuff in their sunroom. But like, what we do is we make things, and we want people to be able to be like, that was great. I want more people to see. I want my mom to see this. I want my brother to see this. We want that type of experience. And I think when we see people getting joy from the things that we create, it's an information for us to be like, hey, we're doing something right. But also it's like, oh yeah, they like what I created. I created some sort of good in the world. And that's always kind of it's a really cheesy way to say it, but it's when you can create like the positive vibes, or you can create like the good emotions, or like something like that. It's very gratifying.
So you mentioned positive vibes, but you also mentioned the audience to have an emotional response. What is it about the motion design you create that get people to want to see it?
Well, my day job is mainly to get people to click ads. I'm one of those guys. I make things that make people want to click, but I don't make like the clickbaity type stuff. I make things that look very interesting, and so I have to take all these other designs that I've done and possibly have failed at, and say, don't do those things. And then I find all the ones that I have done, and I say, oh, these things worked. Like when I animated these emojis this way and I had them come out of this phone, I can tell from these other ads that have worked and these other ads that haven't worked. It's my job to find like the things that evoke emotional responses in people to want to click, or to want to say, oh yeah, I'm a small business, that's what I need. Or, oh, that person on the screen clearly is killing it at their social media, I want to too. And it's really hard to get a person on the other side of the screen to think that. And it's a very difficult thing, but when you get something that hits and it works, you're like, yes, that works, but it works perfect. And so it's kind of, I don't know, I do a lot of data type analysis as well, but then I also just kind of, it comes down to not just the data and what works, it's what looks really cool. And like, does it move smoothly, or does it jump around? Is it gonna make the viewer like be like, ugh, and just scroll? Or like, you have to like think of those things,
Yeah, well, completely. You're talking about Facebook ads. I mean, obviously there's the autoplay, there's no sound. The whole thing is, I think half the Facebook ads I end up seeing are typically shot on cell phone. Yeah. It's just the DIY. People don't have the filmmaking or the design experience to execute on those things, but it's kind of a lazy ad in some ways.
Yeah.
But yet it can be effective if done with captions or whatnot. But at the same time, the motion design that you would put into a Facebook ad would get more of like a visual pull in.
Yeah. I mean, we've piggybacked off of ads we've seen online that look like garbage, but we're like, wow, these guys are like getting a lot of hits on this. Like, what are they using? what is the thing that they are getting their clicks off of, and we'll find out if it's like the visual, or maybe it's the story, and so we'll build a visual story along with like next to like a similar story that they had, or things like that. Like you can, if you find what works, it's kind of like it's just a very hard journey. Yeah. It really is. It just
well, it's constantly try and error.
Oh yeah,
you always have to experiment.
Well, and what works this week might not work next week, or what works in summer doesn't work in winter, or like if the Seahawks are playing, maybe your stuff will be, or your clicks will be like way down, or maybe you need to focus on local-based things, or like it's just all these crazy. I don't know, these crazy data points where you have to like find a way to support it and make your ad look cool, make people want to click it, make people want to like connect with it, essentially,
Totally.
So there's this guy named Fred Pepper, right? And he calls himself the flag bearer. And he sits off of, it's either exit 6 or 7 on I-405 going up to work. And I had been passing by him for like 9 months. So I started working in Bellevue, I think it was like a year ago when I was at Microsoft. And I'd seen this guy, wind, sleet, snow, hail, like the guy is out there every single day. And I'm like, what is this guy doing? He's got a POW flag and an American flag. He's got a Seahawks jersey on. He's got a big old long gray beard. And he's right outside the Seahawks training facility. And I've been going by him for months. And I was just like, it's a really nice day. I'm going to stop and like see what this crazy dude's doing, And I half expected him to just be some nut job. And I went up there and I was talking to him. And he's up on the bridge and he's waving the flag. And the guy is 60. Well, he was 66 when I filmed him. The next day it was his birthday. He told me that and I was like, oh, this is cool. So I started talking to him and he tells me that he's up there to raise awareness for suicide prevention of Vietnam veterans or veterans in general. And he's a Vietnam veteran. And he just says that he stands up there every single day. I saw him this morning, I saw him Friday morning. He stands up there, he says, you are loved. Someone cares about you out there. Don't give up. And he just repeats it over and over. It's like, you are loved. You are special. And he just stands up there and he's just so selfless, just being out there. And it was just really, really cool. And I walked up and he was talking to another lady. And I kind of just waited my turn, to talk to this dude on the overpass. And and I'm like, hey man, I really wanted to talk to you and like, see what you're doing up here. And he told me a story and about how he'd he's been doing this. He used to do it on the I-90 bridge. One year back when Bush was in office or Clinton, they were trying to cut the VA budget by like $3 million or $1 billion or something like that. So he protested that by carrying the flag from Olympia to Washington, D.C. Olympia, Washington to Washington, D.C.
Alone.
He had some people with him and he stopped at like VAs and some people gave him rides, but like the VA supported him the entire way. So like he always wants to like give back and he's just this really, really amazing guy. So I was like, I listened to him talk and I was like, can I cut you off? Because you were like about to make me cry because you're amazing. Can I film you? And I had my iPhone on me. I was like, I'm gonna film you. Let's just talk. Tell me your story, dude. And it was a totally spur of the moment thing. And he tells me this story, and he's crying on camera, like tearing up, talking about like how much he cares about everyone, how much how it feels to like know there's people out there suffering with mental illness, and he stands up there just to let people know that they're loved, that they're special, that someone out there cares about them. Don't give up. And he does it every day. And I heard that and I was just like, holy shit. This guy has been on this bridge for 9 months, even longer. And I've been driving past him and I had no idea. And I was like, do you mind if I take some footage of you? I'd love to like make a video about you. You're just this amazing person. He's like, yeah, by all means, do what you want, man. And he was telling me, a story. He's like, yeah, my birthday's tomorrow. I'm turning 67 tomorrow. I'm getting kind of old. It's really hard to do this. I'm like, holy crap. So I went home and I shot it in the morning at like 9 a.m. I went to work, tried to leave work as early as possible because I wanted to go home and edit this. And I stayed up until 4 o'clock in the morning and texted Fred at 4:15 when I posted it to YouTube. I was like, "Happy birthday, dude." And it said, and on the end it says, today is Fred's birthday. If you go by, give him a honk, or if you ever see him, give him a honk. And it got just this crazy response online. I think it was like 6,000 views in the first day on Facebook, which I know isn't like crazy by like YouTube standards and stuff. Like it wasn't a million hitter, but like for local like Washington, Seattle, Tacoma people, like people were messaging me saying like, I cried so hard watching this. This is amazing. I have a family member that was affected by suicide, or our family's been affected by suicide and all this stuff. And like, I got this crazy response, and it was really heavy. And it was like the hardest thing I've ever had to edit my entire life. Cause like I cried a few times while I was editing. Cause like Fred was so genuine, and I wanted to I had such an emotional response just talking to him. I was like, I want to make something about this guy. I have to make something about this guy. Everyone drives past this guy. Everyone drives past this guy and no one knows. And I want people to know. And so I filmed him. I put it up online. And about a week later, King 5 News got in touch with him. I helped set that up. They did a huge news story on him. He was on TV and stuff. And now, like, every time when I go by him, he always has people stopped. I mean, he had people stop before, but, like, people stop all the time. I'll stop by and say hi. There'll be, like, 3 or 4 people over there talking to him. Come give him high fives. Like, you drive down 405, it's just, like, a sea of horns just because everyone's, like, honking at him. It's just so cool. The guy is just, like... He's just a really interesting person, just super nice, and just, I don't know, he's just got a lot of heart, and I want to show everyone that. And I don't know, that's like my favorite personal project I've done, like, in a long time. A long time.
That was a great story. That was so good. Well, and you know what, like, sharing that story incorporated so many of the questions into one.
Yeah.
Around like emotional response of the video, like what does that? It's storytelling, right? It goes back to just something that's real and authentic. It's like you had no sales objective behind the video. No, you had you weren't trying to accomplish anything like. I get what's the right word?
You're not trying
unworthy.
To
It's there's no like specific big motive behind it.
Well, what's funny is like when I was making that piece, I felt a little guilty, and then I kind of put it out of my mind. But I felt a little guilty because like when you're making something to tell someone's story, you want to make it so that people share it and stuff. But then you also like you want people to like identify with it to share it, and then you're like, am I trying to like manipulate people? But it's not like that. Like you have to like kind of put it out of your head a little bit. But like I don't know. I've always had that weird thing. Like it's kind of the like if you're in a sales job, you're always like kind of weird to sell to your friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
totally.
kind of that same thing. Like when you're making something that's like super emotional and like a really touchy piece, but you want it to go big. You really want it to go big. You would love for it to be like a viral video, but it's not the biggest thing. But you want to do the things that would, maybe push it in that direction. It's okay if it doesn't hit that.
Yeah.
But you want to get a big response if you can because you want to reach those people and you want to share that story. And I wanted to share that story with as many people as possible. And that's kind of like, it's kind of where it comes into like using the tricks that you know and using like the content marketing tricks that you know or the stuff that you've learned throughout the years doing your job. You can use these things to your advantage to also tell really good stories, but also then to get it out to the masses. So.
Solid. So you're a motion designer, you do some UX, you do some VR, you do some storytelling. I mean, that's a great example of storytelling right there. Where can people find you if they want to learn more?
So I have a couple of different places. I'm on Twitter at toe_fur. Facebook, just look for me, Topher Welsh. I think I'm the only Topher Welsh in the world because I think I'm number 1 on that Google search. But and then also I if you do have any sort of VR headset or a Google Cardboard or something like that, me and my friend Eugene Kappen also have a VR talk show on multiple platforms. We'll say that right now. But we host it on the AltSpace platform. We host it on the AltSpace platform. We're also going to hopefully be on a couple of new platforms soon. But it's really cool because you can actually go, you can put on a VR headset and you're now in this like comedy club type of room where me and Eugene are in front of you on stage talking to each other. Like we're standing next to each other, but he's in like LA and I'm in Tacoma. And it's like we're next to like, hey, what's up, dude? What's going on? We're like fake handshaking. And and we have this huge like audience in front of us, like hundreds of people, and we can like call on people. But all these people are like in their like living rooms or bedrooms or whatever they want. And so you can go check that out. It's Glitched, a VR talk show. We don't have a website for it yet, actually, because it's pretty new. But
have you launched any episodes yet?
So we were doing episodes on AltSpace, and we did, I want to say 5 or 6 episodes, and then AltSpace kind of took a very scary dive, and everyone thought that AltSpace was gone forever, and then someone threw a bunch of money their way, and now they're back. And so we're going to be back hosting on AltSpace as well as a couple other platforms, and then yeah, let's see. Is there any other places you can follow me? Oh, I'm on YouTube. Duh.
There we go.
YouTube. My portfolio is Topher the Video Guy, but I also have a channel called Nuclear Wookie as well, and then VR Nation.
I didn't realize that's an awesome tag, by the way.
I got it from a Reddit username.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm saving that one. Screen cap, YouTube, and then my website's toe-fur.com, like a hobbit foot.
So we mentioned content and brand building throughout this episode. If you're overwhelmed with running your business and you know you need more content, especially an ongoing constant supply of content that's custom, all in order to take your brand to the next level, then make sure to learn more and check out our website of Content Supply at contentsupply.io. So thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you on the next episode.